gives you a whole panoramic picture of creation, connection of the inner truth with the world, with matter, with life, with mind, then with the individual, then with collectivity, then the method to reach the inner center, then what to do when you reach the inner center, to bring it out into life, how to express into life, how to allow it to transform your nature, and how to undergo the transformation in three steps of psychicization, universalization, and supramentalization. And ultimately, how to rise with the help of this divine center through the truth consciousness, which is creative of the world and which is the effort of the whole universal nature to express in life. That picture Sri gives. So it is in a line. You understand what Sri does in is a further addition to the process that has been going on intermittently, sometimes half successfully, sometimes touching the light and the highest points and again losing it and closing the doors. Now he wants that the effort should become constant, open, and something that should result in a permanent change in human consciousness, human nature. See, that is the aim. Aim is to bring about a permanent change. All this envisaging, nobody did it the way in which he has done for mankind today, organizing a metaphysical and logic to convince the mind, questioning, organizing a path by synthesizing all the current methods of yoga into a yoga in which anybody on earth, irrespective of religion, caste, color, creed, or sex, can follow. If he's serious, if he wants to. If he doesn't want, it's free not to do it, but it is open to anyone. In that respect, it is a royal road. It is not one that requires you to believe in somebody or believes in a book or believes in a dogma. It only wants you to find out whether you believe in your possibility, divine possibility, one. And second, whether you want to try it as the first priority of life. Begin it at once. That is, you see, this the great second great contribution. And he has envisaged the possibility of changing the basis of human life and supplying a active and dynamic basis of man's individual and collective life. This thing never happened before like that. What was there was to you realize and you remain what you are. You remain wedded to your ego, desire, and all apparatus given for granted. You have some contact sometime, and afterwards you leave nature to be what it is. Even men like Vivekananda always admitted like that human nature is like a dog's tail. You see, so long as you hold it, it remains straight. You leave it, it goes back to its curve. Well, that is what he wants now to cure, not by man's effort only, but by the effort of the divine power and man's willingness and aspiration to change. Man has to supply the beginning, the base. He must aspire and he must reject what is undesirable in him, and we must allow the divine to do. The change will not be brought about by man. Change will be brought about by the man aspiring and divine helping. The help of the divine is indispensable. Nobody can transform his nature without the help of the divine. So these new factors in which the higher consciousness is made to take such a great responsibility, it never happened before like that. It was always you have to do, you have to do. But he says, yes, what you have to do, he has specified. And what you can do, yes. And then what you have to leave to somebody else to do. You see, and he has given an assurance that that somebody is not absentee landlord. That somebody divine is not somebody who is so far that your cry never reaches him. It's not an absentee landlord to whom you are appealing. It is a constant presence above you, around you, or within you that is there all the time, ready to guide you. Are you ready to take the guidance? There cannot be a greater challenge to the spiritual aspiration of man than this one. Nobody has today the courage to say that here is a divine and you take his help. Is it not? And it comes to that practically. What he says to the whole mankind in all his works, chiefly main works, is that here is a great help, a higher consciousness, dynamic and ready to help you, solicitous to give man divine perfection. Is man willing now to take the help? That's all. He must make it the first priority of his life and begin. And want to change and aspire, well, the change will come. And then it is based upon a number of experiments which have been done. It is not merely a thesis that is put down. It not only began with him and the mother, but there were hundreds others who tried, and some of them have certainly changed. What I mean is that the change is not simply expected change or envisaged change or desired change. It is a change that has been seen to some extent to work. So that it's not a hypothesis which merely is hanging in the clouds. It is something that has been brought down to human level on material plane. Because ashram cannot exist in the sky or in the mind. Ashram has to exist on the plane of earth, on the plane of matter, and with living human beings like us, all of us. And so it has succeeded in, first satisfying the aspiration of so many, in bringing about change in some people, so radical a change that you couldn't recognize them if you knew them before, as I know some of them. If you knew some of them in their previous life before the yoga and now, you wouldn't recognize them. Such a radical change also has been brought about in some people. I don't say that everybody is perfect there. No. But everybody is trying to carry out this program of inner life into his life to the maximum of his capacity. Capacities vary. So naturally results also vary. But there is now possible to see an actual experiment being done on the plane of matter to bring about this change and some very good results. So there is no reason to think that it is something only which is theoretical or something that is abstract, but something that can happen everywhere. That can happen in America. Why should it not? There is no reason. Because the conditions are not laid down that it is conditioned by any time or space or to a country or to a race or a religion. So it is only open to any human being to aspire and to bring about a change in his nature by his aspiration and rejection and surrender and help of the divine. I don't think it could be simpler than that. I mean, if you can say a thing is very difficult, but if a very difficult thing also has been, a road has been made to mount or surmount the difficulties, then certainly difficulties being there are reduced to the minimum. The highest difficult, the achievement is high and therefore naturally difficult. But such a high achievement, if one has to do himself, it will be practically impossible. But if somebody has prepared the road and is ready to give the guidance or show the path, well, naturally, even though the difficulties are great, but the possibility becomes much more pronounced and practically. I mean, the achievement becomes within the reach of people, and that is what Sherando has done. He has brought the yoga to the reach of any man who wants to do it. And the question is whether men want to do the yoga. If they don't want, there is no compulsion. Well, today I didn't want to say anything about the yoga because most of the ground we have covered. Only two things. Difficulties also I have spoken on difficulty in one evening before I went out to Los Angeles. 2 points perhaps I can make out this evening, or three. One point is that the main part of the difficulty in this yoga is threefold. One is the division of personality in almost all men. You see, a action of double personality, if you like, not a split personality in the sense of Jekyll and Hyde, not so pronounced and acute and discernible and observable, but almost in all men there is a double person in the mind, in the life, in the vital. And very often the difficulties are due to this, struggle between the two. Part that is turned to light and part that is reserved to ego or desire or selfishness or something attached to normal movements of life, you see, or ignorance. And that is one part that makes one difficulty. In the mind, there is a turning towards light, and one part that goes on doubting or questioning, one part that wants to adhere in the vital to old habits and old attachments, and one part that wants to convert itself to light, and so on. So that is one division of the being into two. And secondly, a quarrel in the members, which I pointed out yesterday or day before, if you remember, with regard to life divine or something. I don't remember now what was the subject matter, but it was the psychic being trying to govern the nature part and transferring its authority to intellect or mind or reason. And then reason means thinking mind and vital being. Thinking mind going one way, vital being going another way. Not two personalities. Mind can have two personalities, remember. Vital being can have two personalities. Emotional being can have two personalities. That is one. A division in each level, but also a quarrel between various instruments of nature. Mind going in one direction, vital going in another direction, emotion going in third direction, willpower pulling in fourth direction. You see the want of integration of the members or parts of nature, and therefore want of centrality in the whole decision. Carrying out the decision by all the members, they don't equally contribute. So one part, well, the and thirdly, well, one can say some reservation in the act of aspiration, in the act of rejection, and even in the act of surrender. A part that reserves something to itself, you see. Even when it aspires with a sort of a qualification. Even when it rejects, it wants to retain what it rejects. One part wants to reject, you see. This you will observe if you keenly observe the operation in oneself. One can very easily see that a man who says he wants to give up smoking, well, one part is clear about it and quite definite. And one part, even when he wants to give up, is a little reserved and wants to retain. It may not be vocal, it may not be at once immediately effective or want to do something, but there is always an arrière-pensée, as they say in French, you see, a reservation, which he wants to, if I can retain it, would be good. Well, the difficulties are due to this want of, you can put it simply by calling it sincerity, you see. So a division in the various instruments of several personalities on each plane of being, division in the mind, division in the emotional being, division in the vital being, division in the lower vital being. Then a quarrel between mind and vital, quarrel between emotional being and vital, vital and mind, and so on. That. And thirdly, a sort of a reservation in all that one does in spiritual life, want of wholeheartedness, as you say. You see, when you or somebody in ordinary language, you see a man is going whole hog. You know, whole hog. Yes, that's it, whole hog. Huh? Whole hog or none? Yes, yes. So the want of this whole hog, the attitude makes one difficulty because something is always kept back, and that makes the divine help not reach the point of difficulty. This is want of sincerity prevents the change because not only it keeps the thing, but it prevents the divine from acting upon it. Because when one is not willing, the divine wouldn't force it. This is the law of inner life. In Sri Aurobindo Yoga particularly, man is given complete freedom, almost up to the end. I have never seen a guide who can give that amount of freedom which Mother and Sri Aurobindo give. I have not known. It is impossible. I have to meet such a wide, a guidance which can allow you to complete freedom. Because that idea is that if man is not free, well, it is not his growth. He must want. And that is right. That is what democracy ultimately means. That the man must want the change which is best for him. And if he doesn't want, well, it means that the divine in him is not yet ready, and divine in him is satisfied with the present condition. Ultimately, it comes to last analysis, comes to that, is it not? If the divine in him is very happy in present ignorant condition, let him be happy. That is what Gray who said, is it not? When ignorance is bliss, it is folly to be wise. Only point is that one cannot be always retain the blissfulness in ignorance. That is the trouble. It comes and knocks you against your head. Well, anyway, there were the 2 or 3 points which I wanted to say this evening. And difficulties have been dealt with, other difficulties. So I don't think we have practically exhausted the subject matter of the 3 volumes, in fact, on yoga. I mean, substantially, not that we have gone into detail, but substantially we have dealt with the aim, the method, the procedure, preparation, then the technique or the method of meditation, and what you expect to do, and the nature of difficulties. Well, the rest is for people to do. What now remains is to make an attempt. Unless you have some point of difficulty which you want to solve or which you want to understand. I mean, real difficulty of inner life and not a intellectual questioning, but something with regard to, well, doing things. Then it is relevant. Otherwise, there can never be any end to possibilities and potentialities. That you read Sherundo's literature in that case, he has answered them all, answered everyone, answered any question. Any question that a modern mind can put is already answered. I have found this true in dozens of cases. I have acted upon this. About Hatha Yoga, you will go, you will find in his writing. About Raj Yoga, you will find in his writing. About Tantra, you will find in his writing. Absolute his attitude. About Buddhism, you will find. Come to me if you don't find, I will tell you. But you must find. Why should I point out to you without your trouble? Because it won't have any price. You must go to it yourself and find out. And I promise, it is there now. I tell you. I put it to you now. You want to know what is Hatha Yoga? You go, you will find. How far you can go in Raj Yoga? You will find. How far you can Tantra? You will find. What is Kundalini? You will find. If you don't find, come, I will show you. It is there for a modern mind. Any question about his ultimate of man and process of growth, it is answered. Because it's a cosmic mind. Not that I say that Sherando is great and so on, because it is cosmic mind. Whatever was in the cosmic mind is there already. So no question that is in the cosmic mind will not be there. It will be there all the time. It must be there. Every kind of possible intellectual position or practical difficulty has been answered. Answered from his point of view to show that where is its place, what it can do, and what it means. Oh, yes, you will get his attitude in his own words, which is more important. Because he says in his own way, you see, which is more convincing way and carries his consciousness, which is a great advantage. People are afraid of intellectual work and they want everything to be made easy. And he writes in one sentence today I came across, French made easy, French without tears. So you want yoga without tears. He writes one yoga without tears. But as soon as they see some book, they say, oh, this is big book. So if you want a great thing, you must be prepared for paying the price for it by going through the labor. And you will be amply repaid because it is something that is worth pursuing. Sometimes a question is raised in mind about how to know the supreme will and so on. That he has already answered in Life Divine in a metaphysical way, but you can see the answer to it in the yogic way also. That try to analyze what one calls oneself, I. And then you will find that the freedom of I, decision of I, responsibility of I, and thinking that one is doing everything is very dangerous half-truth. It is not true at all. The ego is not free at all. If you observe carefully, we are trying to find out how to know the divine will. Well, first of all, man says that divine will is not necessary, my will is quite all right. That's how the ego always thinks that what is the use of asking somebody else? I am adequate. If you observe what is the working of the I, then you will see that its sense of initiation, sense of origin, sense of responsibility, sense of being independent doer or the origin or actor is quite illusory. Our ego simply comes and attaches itself to a formation of nature, that's all. There is a formation or construction of nature in the mind. I comes and ego comes and attaches itself, this is my, or this is I. You see, impulse occurs. He writes actually, I think the sentence came to my mind just now. He said, we do not think Man, ego does not think. Thought occurs in us. Impulse occurs in us. And then ego comes and attaches them to what occurs and makes it his own. It is nature that is weak. And when man says, I am free, I am responsible, I am actor, I am creator, he doesn't know what he's talking, because nature is the creator, nature is the actor, universal movement is the actor in him. He is only a, what you call the puppet in the hand of nature. Nature is playing him out, you see, and he's a plaything of nature. Then who decided that which comes and the ego attaches it to it? Then you will have to admit that there is a cosmic being or a self who must be the originator and governor or controller and the one who knows the end and the origin of the movement. Well, the cosmic being and not individual ego. And this cosmic being to the sadhak, to the individual who makes yoga, is felt as this Purusha watching consciousness, of which we spoke already. A part of psychology, a part of one's own consciousness which can detach itself from the flow or movement of nature and see the moment with perfect detachment. That Purusha, that surface subjective self, is really the cosmic Purusha, but the beginning in the individual is made on the individual scale, you see. Just as for the individual, there is a separate subjective self, a seer or a witness who watches the movement of his nature, either mental, vital, or physical, and is completely detached. So is the independent witness of the whole cosmic movement. Now you imagine, yes, and it is that which is the source of all cosmic mental currents of thought, currents of life, currents of life processes, currents of impulses, currents of ideas. Well, material energy, everything, it is the sanction of that which is giving rise to this that is happening here. Well, therefore, for the individual, it becomes easy first to locate this will in the cosmic Purusha, the cosmic witness. So, whatever one is or has is derived from the cosmic Purusha, the cosmic being, the cosmic self or cosmic consciousness. And so, the individual, when he awakens to yogic life, he knows full well that his ego is not the actor. To know what is the divine will, he first of all comes to the cosmic consciousness and cosmic will and tries, if he is sincere, to find out what is the cosmic will in him. What does this universal Purusha or universal being want him to do? Now, he is only one individual center of action of the cosmic being. You see? Well, in that case, his individual initiation will go and he will become a channel or an instrument of the cosmic will and its execution in life. And this cosmic will, when your will is turned towards divine, also gives you the will of the divine in the cosmos. Because the cosmic consciousness is subject to the divine consciousness. It is an operation of the divine consciousness. The first movement of the divine, we saw truth consciousness, creates the cosmic mind, is it not? Yes. The cosmic self is only the first operation of the truth consciousness. Therefore, when you have turned towards the divine and the truth and aspire to the light and attainment of the divine, well, and if you approach the cosmic consciousness, it immediately puts in contact with the divine consciousness, because cosmic consciousness itself is trying to carry out in the flow of universal life the intention and will of the divine. And if you have wanted to contact the divine, well, naturally, the cosmic consciousness puts you in contact with the divine consciousness. You can even put aside the cosmic consciousness when you are in it by your identification with the divine consciousness and bring into cosmic consciousness directly the will of the Supreme. That will depend upon whether you are intended to be the instrument for a cosmic work. If you are intended to work in the collective entity, Well, that also might happen, that you might identify with the collective consciousness and know the will of the divine for the collectivity. So the perception of the divine will begins with this operation of the unreality of the ego's, feeling of itself as the subject or creator and a responsible agent, and with the experience that ego is only an instrument of nature. It is something moved only by a flow of nature, and therefore a perception of a being that is supporting the whole cosmic movement, and then surrender of works or aspiration for opening to that cosmic consciousness. Well, that gives you the first touch of the how to find out the supreme will in the yogic life. This Purusha is not the surface ego. It is a silent self and a source of power. It is with knowledge. And he is the supporter of the whole of the work of nature, yes. And it is the soul force behind, the inner force. And it is the inner and outer force of the whole universal nature. Nature is supplied by this Purusha. The two aspects of Prakriti or nature, the higher nature and the lower nature, are both operations of this being that is witness of the cosmos. And at present in the human consciousness, he is not the Lord. He is not the one who commands the nature. And when he commands as a witness Purusha, the Prakriti revolts and refuses, because he's not accustomed to be ruled by the witness yet. Sanction has been given to it by ignorant personality before. And so even when the Purusha detaches himself and commands the nature, gives a suggestion to nature, withdraws his consent from nature, or refuses to admit certain movements of nature, you see, or wants certain new movements to be started, well, nature refuses and revolts. And supreme will, and not even the cosmic will, can arise in the individual also if he can completely get rid of all his desires and ego. If he can be completely free from desire and ego, then not only the cosmic will but even the supreme will can arise. How can it arise, and how can it be known that the supreme will has arisen? Well, first it comes as an intuition or as an inspiration. The higher will first comes either as an intuition or as an inspiration. It can come also sometimes in three stages, gradually if it comes. First, the personal will is allowed to operate, but one seeks the guidance of the Supreme in the personal will, and occasionally the personal will is enlightened by the higher will. So, personal will acts, but always seeking the guidance of the higher will. The second stage is that personal will is constantly replaced by the higher will. One is accustomed to exercise his personal will. In the second stage, more and more he refuses to act on his personal will and invokes the higher will to act in him. And more it constantly replaces. That is to say, intelligence and mind is replaced by illumined mentality or intuitive spiritualized mind, or by the psychic being, more or less. It is second stage, it is psychic being that takes the lead and is allowed to come willingly by pushing the mind backward. You see, mental intelligence is not allowed to. In the beginning, one allows the personal will to act. In the second stage, one more frequently puts this personal will or intelligence backward and allows illumined mind, intuitive mind, or psychic being to lead and give the decision. And in the last, well, complete identification with the higher will takes place. So it can take place in three stages. And what is the sign that it is coming from the higher source? It gives you sign. It will all take place in peace, calm, light, and power. There will be no excitement, disturbance, or reactions. No sense of responsibility. When it comes, you know it is not yours. When it is executed, there is no strain. And when a result comes or doesn't come, there is no reaction. That is a sign that it came from the higher source. You see, he gives very clear guidance. It comes in light, it comes in peace, it comes in calm, it comes with its sense of power, other power than intellectual or mental or human power. Well, when it comes, then you know it. Secondly, you don't feel the responsibility. You are free from the sense of responsibility and free from all reactions. Well, that is a sign that it has come from the higher source. Now, more practical than that, how can you have any guidance? It's very practical, isn't it? The evening, unless there is something to continue this subject, we might go in for another subject. Perhaps I might take up either Veda, Upanishad, and Gita or collective life, one of the two. We can begin some aspect of collective life, either human cycle or ideal of human unity. Isn't it? We have to cover a lot. So, Veda, Upanishad, and Gita, if that is so, it is quite a good subject, though it is a little technical in the sense that these are not familiar with the mind here, but one day we have to give to that, or one subject, or 3 days. It's not Veda, Upanishad, and Gita, perhaps. 2 to 3 days it would take. It is a big subject, in fact. It is not a small thing. Like we can do two things. One is the definition of spirituality. What Sherundu understands or wants people to understand by spirituality, which is quite a good subject. Yes, it is quite a 15 or 20 minutes, no long affair. And it's quite necessary, I think, that at least those who want to practice yoga should know the distinction between ethics and spirituality, religion and spirituality, you see. And it is good to know in his own words, because all over the world, anybody who doesn't understand spirituality always speaks about spirituality. It's the most surprising thing I've seen in my life. Even Nehru speaks about spirituality. He doesn't know the ABC of it. But he speaks about it very spirituality. Anything philanthropic, anything of service or morality or some, it's spirituality. It is spirituality. That is Socrates, what he said, I think. That is Socratic.
Well, I just don't know how to phrase it, but I'd like to know how communism as an ideal ties in with collective consciousness.
No, that's a question which concerns really the organization of collective life on a different basis, you see. And these ideas, when they are, you see, thrown on humanity from the, can call it the cosmic mind, or if you like to call it, well, world forces. You see, forces that work in the world, when they are thrown in the human mind, then they get a distortion while passing through the human mind, and they get either an exaggeration or a lopsidedness which perhaps was not in the original idea which came to the human mind, because the idea came with some truth, some relevancy to the human situation, you see. If you look at communism not in its present form, but in its deepest, you see, inspiration, you will see that there is a great truth in it. In the outer form, you will see that it is very crude and, not only crude, but I think harmful in a certain way, because it doesn't allow individual liberty, which is the basis of progress. But apart from those defects and deformations, if you go behind, the impulse, the originating inspiration has some great truth about it. You see, it emphasizes the second principle of French Revolution, equality. You see, equality. It is that which it wants to emphasize. And then in trying to carry it out, well, it commits colossal blunders. That's all. It commits such blunders that you think that instead of creating equality, it is stifling human liberty. You see, it is cutting down liberty in order to create equality, which Shenzo said 40 years back. I will quote that sentence when we come to his ideal of human unity. That you see, liberty, equality, and fraternity. Perfect liberty you cannot have if you allow the individual to be equal. And perfect equality, if you want to have, you cannot have democracy or liberty. I am quoting almost literally, except a little change of words, you see. It is not possible. So, the equality, when it said, he said that the third idea of fraternity or brotherhood contains some truths. And they are not brotherhood, you cannot carry out by a scheme of democracy. You cannot pass a resolution in the legislature that all must feel brotherhood. You see, most unlikely thing that will happen and can never be carried out. So this brotherhood contains some element of great truth, which can, if it is applied correctly, justify liberty as well as equality. Because that is a quality of the soul, this brotherhood. Brotherhood is in fact a working of unity of soul, which is at work. It is really the unity of soul at the bottom. And equality, when you say equality, is not in the outer expression, but equality in the inner sense of the word. All souls are equal because they are equally divine. All souls, as souls, are equal because they are equally divine. And the expression of each soul or divinity of each soul is indispensable in total manifestation or expression of the divine in life. So it is not an equality of function or outer action, but equality of acceptance of equal divinity in all. And then, as a second corollary in actual collective life, equal opportunity to all for health, for learning, for seeking his means of life. Equal opportunity. You cannot force equality on people by holding back more qualified people and giving chance to less qualified people. That would be inequality because it would prevent the more intelligent people from from having their chance, is it not? But you should not make a preferential treatment to anybody, and nobody should be debarred on any basis from taking up his opportunity for health, for education, and for finding employment. This equality you can produce in a society or in a collectivity. More than that, to say that we must have particular kind of economic this and social this and so on. Well, that will be putting down individual freedom. That will be interfering with the independence of man. Put it. That will not be democracy in that case. And that is what is happening in many countries now, which are democratic in their constitution. Program which is called socialistic program is being pressed, you see. And socialism means two kinds. One is the state as a proprietor, is it not? State as the economic, so to the head, and state as the proprietor of concerns. Well, in that case, state ownership, if you begin, then naturally individual will be driven a little. And if you interfere with individual, initiative, to that extent also the collectivity is treading upon the freedom of the individual. And whether that will make for progress, they say, because it will remove injustice according to them. Now, allowing the state to become the proprietor, is it justice or not? That requires another question. But state has power, so it never questions. Never, you can't question whether state is right in taking up this sort of power. There is a state must have every right because state is all powerful. It's a representative of God. State is something above question. You cannot question. State can do anything. And that is just where I think the difficulty arises. Otherwise, communism as an outlook on collective life has some truth. That because a man is laborer, he should not be kept a laborer all through. His humanity or his human personality must be given a chance to fulfill it. And that also by making him a partner in the earning, which is a fruit of his labor.
Yes.
You see, to say that in a factory that workers are hands, how many hands you have, they say, is it not?
Yes.
Yes. You forget that they are men and not hands. They are men, as good as anybody else, you or anybody, the proprietor. So whatever he wishes, well, they also are entitled to fulfillment of those very impulses. How should he treat them all along as hands? And price them at the value of whatever their hand can turn out. They must be valued as souls, as human entities, human beings, and entitled to seek satisfaction of, you know, at least the impulse to grow, impulse to feel peace, or impulse to to find that life is worth living. You can't simply go on saying that I have invested money. But you might invest money, but why should you, grind down human beings? You may invest money, but you can't go on grinding down human beings. Because that's a greater waste. Your claim is that I am producing so much for society. Production, is it not? That is their claim. Piling up production. But that is matter. While here you are grinding down souls, which is spirit. It is a much greater injustice here. The gain that you give to society or the service that you render is more than annulled by the injustice which you do to living persons. You have to treat them as a living persons, individuals, and see to it that they come up to the level of, I mean, not in satisfying human needs, but human fulfillment to whatever extent they are capable. And in fact, you must create opportunities for them to fulfill their life, not merely by giving the animal, comforts by saying, all right, you drink more one day or go to theater one day. That's what they are doing. That you have free passage for theater and going to cinema twice a week and so on. What it wants to. It's reducing the. It's not really catering to the inner need. You see, it is just trying to satisfy. It is better to do that than to do nothing, of course. But that's not really what is wanted. What is wanted is to dealing with them on plane of human level. You see, humanity. Philosophy, I think it is not making much headway now because other countries who are not communistic, well, are doing taking away the wind out of their sail, as they say. You see, and all the causes of complaint and the dissatisfaction are being removed. So I don't think it is making as much headway as it wanted to or as it was feared. I don't think. The illiterate mass very much more easily by slogans, you see. I have seen in Japan a very strong current of this movement. You see, the Japanese want to, now they understand that if we combine, well, we can dictate to the industries. So they want to work less and gain more.
Me, we have a lot of that over here too.
Huh?
We have a lot of that over here too.
Yeah.
Man wants to work less and have more.
Want a little more.
You sell your soul to the devil all that way. And give it away. Depends on the
Maybe that
attitude.
man that wants to work less has some spiritual ideas that he wants to think. I think there's way too much work here. You don't have the time to develop spiritually. They have to work so hard that they haven't got any time.
Yes.
It has to be a balance, I think.
Yes. No, that can be arranged. I think if there is a sense in asking for leisure and equal pay, I don't think that a man who has got leisure would work less. He can work efficiently. During the period that is given, he can turn out efficient work. The difficulty today is that even during the hours that are stipulated by government regulation or by conventions of unions, people even during that period don't work as much as they should work. That is a difficulty, you see. They now find out that these people are dependent on them. So these other parties trying to take up automation more and more. They are trying to say that only one man will run the whole factory. All right. Automatic, you see, automation, that is one of the latest craze, I think. That least number of people required to run a big concern. In which one tries this thing, and it can only be solved on a spiritual basis when economy will be set to its proper place. That is the only solution that we would recommend, which nobody will listen to for some time being. Labor, management of concerns, big concerns, and they had to give it up within 3 years or 4 years because production fell and efficiency fell. And they found that laborers are not capable of running a concern efficiently, you see. Yes. And also the quantity. So production also was reduced, and the quality of goods were reduced, efficiency was reduced. So they had to appoint managers, you see, they call them official managers of this Communist Party. Instead of the proprietors or the director or the agent, you see, manager, governor or manager. And the manager took the work out of them. Corruption, the managers are capable of the same weakness of human nature, but the capitalists were or the managers were and so on. As a profession, means as a subject, it is not bad if you can be impersonal about it, just as you study geography, physics, or mathematics. Like that, if you take up and acquire the power by training yourself and use it as a profession, it's not bad, but people hardly can do it. I have seen 2 or 3 only like that. Occultists who put a board on their place, occultist, and they what they do is when he's ill or something, he goes and gives suggestion, or when there is hypnotism, or I mean, this hysteria, he goes and cures hysteria, or when there is somebody subjected to pain, he puts the idea of no pain and relieves the pain of the man. You see, or if somebody is a little upset in mind, just beginning of lunacy, then he goes and puts his will and tries to bring back to his own self and cures him. Well, that is a use of it which you can do just as a medical man is, giving his medical advice and treatment to people. But occultists generally begin to meddle into the occult world and then bring forces of that world into life and into themselves, into other, and they get into a mess. That is why occultism is not recommended for spiritual persons particularly, because that opens one to worlds and forces and actions of beings which are not very helpful to growth of spiritual life. But occultism as such is not something which is to be avoided or bad, fundamentally because it is occultism, it's not bad. Only people don't take up it like a profession. Legal, you go to a lawyer, he gives you advice, is it not? That yes, your case is like this, you do go along, you will be able to win the case, and he might plead for you and get it out, or fail or succeed. In the same way, an occultist may try and may fail or may succeed, but he can try. There are people who do that for half an hour. You see? You call him, he gives you sitting for half an hour. You call him home, he comes home, and the man who has got the hysteria is pulled out of hysteric stage or something like that. Or the man who is going mad and is megalomania, well, he tries to take it out of his mind and put him normal, if he can do it. Sometimes they succeed in doing it. At the beginning stage of trouble, they can help with their knowledge of the technique of the occult life. Occult is a technical science. It has to be scientifically done like a science. One can do it.
Isn't this using the powers that
that can come from the divine?
No, they are not from the divine. These are normal human powers which can be developed to be efficient, you see. Generally, people don't develop, but those who want can develop them. Powers coming from the divine are of a different order. They have nothing to do with occultism, nothing to do with occultism. Occult powers are not given by the divine. Occult powers are either acquired by men purposely for satisfying their ambition or trying to follow the profession, as I say. It is by training one's own mind and vital. These are two instruments used in occultism.
Well, then by using it as a
Well, if you do it only as a profession, there is no harm. You can be spiritual also. If you can be strictly impersonal like a lawyer, that you don't come to me for judgment, I give you the law. That's all. Like that. If you can be impersonal, it won't even come in the way of spiritual life. If you get subjected to ambition and trying to use power for yourself or for money or for influencing people or for some ulterior motive, then naturally it's not good for spirit.
the great universe of consciousness carrying within itself all past, present, and future.
Oh yes, oh yes. In the vision of time, in that consciousness, all the three times are included. Two movements, an eternal time and a timeless eternal. Eternity beyond time and eternity of time. You see, in the Satchidananda, the aspect of timeless eternity is there. Eternity is there, but it is an eternity which is not of the time eternity. And then the movement from the Satchidananda that flows, well, is the time eternity. It is again eternal time. So in the vision of the cosmic, the time vision is included. Because cosmic is not separated from the divine, you must remember.
Yes.
On the height of cosmic consciousness, the contact is with the divine consciousness. And in the divine, all the three times are held at one and the same time.
Well, a little bit. In the process of revelation, if the prophet sees in the future or the past,
Yes,
he
yes,
sees through
yes, yes,
the divine, if he's a
yes,
saintly
yes,
man.
yes.
Yeah.
You see, that which happens in life pre-exists in some subtle plane. It's out of nothing.
No, because it couldn't be.
Yes, it is pre-existent. So, when a man sees what is coming, well, you say it is a reading of the future. It's already coming, and he sees that there. Yeah.
And this very room was pretty already.
Yes, right. That's right.
Continuum.
That's correct. That's it. That's how it is. Only in a different dimension. It was not mentally there. You see? Yes, 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 yes. There was. It was in its inception, so to say. It is the vision there is so different from mine that for mine to describe it would not be correct, appropriate. You see? If somebody said, "All right, it will be like that," with a mind, no, it is not that. It's a different play of decision, of determination, of self-determination. It is really speaking. It's not an outside agency that is deciding. It is self-determination of the divine. You see. And this self-determination is being there, it comes true when there is no obstruction to it, you see. And the intention also is put in the cosmic consciousness.
If we are the finite of the universe, I mean, if it's we're the finite the
Yeah.
drop of the ocean.
Yes, but we are not finite in our essential constitution. We are the divine. That way. You see, from the point of view of ultimate truth, we are the divine. In fact, that is what is said in Life Divine several times, that the Satchidananda manifesting himself seems to refuse himself. That is the truth. Then on that basis you can try to think.
That basis,
Yeah.
that you have to be careful to think that way, don't you?
Yes,
You know, that would bring then right away you have that ego.
yes, yes. Ego is there. That is what creates finiteness. Ego is there, that creates finiteness, limitation, personality, mental or vital or ignorant personality. And it is necessary to create that individual center in ignorance. That's all. Now, to restore the connection of this ego with the or personality with the infinite, that is a problem. Then the mind becomes conscious, a conscious center of the infinite.
But does each one have their own struggle to make
Yes.
individually and absolute and cannot, and no one can take, I mean, you have to do it yourself. Right, help with the divine.
There is.
I mean, not, it isn't
Yeah.
yourself, but
Yes, yes. For each individual, you can say there is his own path. His own path. And somebody can help means you admit that there is not self already there. From Shendo's point of view, there is no somebody.
there is no somebody.
That's it. So you can receive help from one who happens or whom you believe to be some other person because it is your own self.
Then all,
That is
all
where-
mankind is within yourself.
Yes, right. Perfectly right. That is the truth.
Yeah, but
That is yes, that is where Buddhism and Sherndo go like that. Buddha actually said that you have to work your own salvation by your own self. And in that very Buddhism, they said, Buddham Sharanam Gacchami. I seek refuge in Buddha. Buddha said, don't seek refuge in anyone. They did. Poor Buddha, no go. He said before his death to the people, you have to work your own salvation. Nobody can help you. Ananda, this is my word for you. All right. Even after very few years of his departure, Buddham Sharanam Gacchami, Sangam Sharanam Gacchami, Dharmam Sharanam Gacchami. These three great surrender took place as basic, tenets of Buddhism. I seek refuge in Buddha, I seek refuge in Dharma, I seek refuge in Sangha, in the collectivity. Just as Christ, Bible, and the church. Same. In Vaishnavism, the same Vishnu or the Krishna, then the Bhagavad and the Bhakta group. This is the way it works. Buddha being non-theistic, having non-theistic outlook, and not being a believer in the existence of individual soul, these are the two great basic, fundamentals of Buddhism. Buddhism is not a philosophy in that sense, you see, it's not metaphysics. It's a practical application to pull out man out of pain by a removal of desire. That's the basis. But he said, therefore, that don't try to depend, you work out your own salvation by your own self. The disciples, after he left his body, Buddha became the central figure of Buddhism. Now, how can Buddha help when he said you can't take anybody's help? And yet it was there in his own outlook. How much it contradicted human nature you can see from there. It doesn't prove that people were fools. 300 years after Buddha, every 100 years, hundreds of people gathered together in a, what you call a meeting, conference, and reconsidered all the basic tenets of Buddhism according to their times. All of them were not people without sense. And yet all of them admitted Buddham Sharanam Gacchami, Sangam Sharanam Gacchami, Dharmam Sharanam Gacchami. So it meant that what Buddha said did not tally with human nature. Didn't go with human nature. Human nature believes in identity of soul and says that somebody can help me. Why not? Because I am one with him. Without knowing, without understanding philosophy, this is a feeling. And we know that it does work. It does work. There is no question. Hundreds of cases, not one or two, hundreds, literally thousands, have been helped by people because they have been helped on the basis of unity. They are not X helping Y, but X and Y have a common factor A. And when you are meeting X, and if you meet A in X, then that A in you can help the A in you. That's how it happens. The Guru helps you by identity. He is your highest self, your own highest self. He is not somebody else. It is our own highest self. It can always help us.
Well, that's where the trouble is, I'm coming in with all these masters.
Yes, that's there according to one's own likes and dislikes or capacity, inclination, aspiration one seeks and meets. There you leave room for individual freedom and also possibility of committing mistake. Both we must allow. Somebody says that so many people are following, let them follow. Some truth he is finding, some truth he is finding, or what he seeks he finds there. That's all. Now what he seeks depends on him. You see, because all don't seek the highest, even when they seek something, and all don't seek the intention of the divine. Most of them seek what would satisfy them. You see, it is very rare. What Sherndov says, for men to seek is very rare people, very few. That is why you don't find easily people in such a gigantic figure coming to human life, I mean, and to humanity, giving his most reasoned outlook on philosophy or on yoga or on all questions of why do they not take notice? It's simply because of that blindness, egoism. They can't see. They can't see. It's not, they don't want to see. It's their right not to see. They want some social good or they want some peace or they want some power or some identity or samadhi or standing on head or something they want to do. That they can do. Why not? Yes, they do hot yoga. Lots of people in Hong Kong and Japan and America, you see, they're all the time twisting and torturing. Now, that is good for body. You must understand what it means. It is for body. But they will go on doing. They get some good out of it. Why not? It is their right, birthright. To choose what they want. Yes, choose what they want. Only what they want is, well, far less than what the divine can give. They get what they want. Property and followers and numbers and so on. The value of truth or value of a path. It has nothing to do with property or number of people. And there are so many schools contradictory to each other that you don't know whether you can call it a science today, you see. They will each one will claim that it is a science and marvelous science, that's all right. But whether it is really entitled to be called a science, I don't believe.
But I think Jung certainly, in some of his books, he certainly recognized spiritual elements in man.
I don't know whether it amounted to the admission of a soul. He admitted a personality. Now, what he meant by personality, I don't think he could ever define because he said the roots of personality are shrouded in mystery. Yes, that's it. So I'm giving you.
There's a book called The Undiscovered Self.
Yes.
That would seem to indicate that there is an unknown, a spiritual self. He wouldn't commit himself. He never committed himself.
Not only that, I don't think these people fight shy of metaphysical admissions. First of all.
Yes.
And themselves have not the patience and the capacity to go through the process. See, if they take up the process seriously, instead of reading all the folklores of the world and the fables and symbols of primitive religion and all that, how many years he spent? He could have spent half the year to find out the truth of yoga. If you're serious about finding out, they take it up and, yes, yes, that we know. That's how. Well, they want to write a book.
Well, unless you experiment.
Yes, on yourself, first of all. That is psychology. That is the basics. Here in the sentence is psychology, a subjective science in which one can proceed from the knowledge of his own self to the knowledge of others.
Well, now if
Very clear. So when they don't know themselves, they can write volumes on what is psychology. Nothing wrong, it's a good progress.
but there's bound to be a number of people that will do this very thing to test this. They will do it.
Well, that is what Siranda wants. You experiment and find out, and then you will see.
I mean, able men who are qualified in the intellectual and academic world who will test this teaching.
Well, I hope they would. And they would find out the truth about it. What I find is that they're not very willing to take up.
Of course, it's pretty hard, but
Yes, that's it. Because practicing means, changing your whole psychology.
I think your testing, your motivation for that is disproving.
No, not disproving. What they're busy with is, you see, weaving with mind. They want to keep mind busy. It's not a wrong thing, good thing. On the whole, it's not good. Something is better than being idle in the mind. You see, doing something busy with themselves and busy with human psychology, understanding what is man, what is man, what is man, like that. Something will come out of it someday. No hurry.
but I don't think that this Sri Aurobindo, because of his great intellectual attainment, he isn't. I'm sure he's not ignored.
You cannot ignore. It is like a stone that hits you on the head. You can't help it. They would have long ago forgotten him, but unfortunately they can't. They would have. They can't. And some of us are there, fortunately, for the truth. To see that you don't ignore the truth all the time. Well, here is somebody who experimented 40 years, not only on himself, but hundreds of people. It's not a joke. And these people are hardly infants in compared to his work. And they claim to judge and write opinion, this life and this even psychology, yoga. What is? It comes out of that position of superiority complex. They themselves don't see it being psychologists. If they had little introspection, little sincere intellect, they would have seen that this is a giant before whom they are pygmies.
No,
I told it to the philosophy conference in India. I don't mince matters and words when it comes to that. You see, I told the whole conference, all India philosophical conference. And I told them, look, your psychology is only little smattering only of the subconscious and very little of the conscient. But here is somebody who has worked out the superconscient and the whole psychology of superconscient. Show me in the whole world anybody who has touched this subject with such a scientific and experimental basis. I told them. Then some of them began to read Sri Aurobindo. All philosophical people, psychologists of the whole India, you see, hundreds of them. I asked most of them, dozens of them told me they had not read Sri Aurobindo, and they claim to be in that field. You see, here is somebody who has contributed so radically new material to their field, they have not even read the books. After my address to the session, some of them actually came to me and told me it was very good and really you put it well. And I put some idea also, not merely this much. This is only one part of it which I am telling you. It was an address to the whole session of Philosophical Congress at Baroda in 1950, I think 53 or somewhere. And they told that, yes, this makes some demand on us. We must read the books. I said, look here is somebody in your own country who wrote and worked single-minded for 40 years, not a day, and didn't do anything else but this work. You are in that field. You are teaching, you are doing, and you don't know this contribution. What is your sense of responsibility? of your subject to yourself and to the people whom you teach. It's so not bad, it's all right. That's how you see things are in the world, worked on the basis because the intellectual people are not in for. They only say that we'll observe what is happening and come to conclusion. Now, what is to be observed is inside. How are you going to observe that? We will observe and then from data we'll collect and find out science. The whole data is internal. How are you going to know it? Oh, by myths of the world, symbols of the world. Yes, you found out that there is common symbol. Now, what does symbol mean? Collective unconscious. What is collective unconscious? A new word, that's all. Unconscious must mean something. What does it mean? How does it act? From where does it act? Is it on matter or on spiritual plane or consciousness or where? Where does it arrive? There is no, this is all right, good. I don't object to conclusions which are certainly prompted by hard labor and sincere desire to find out and so on. But the way to go about is not this. This is a subject in which you must go inside and find out. And you can generalize to somebody else on the basis of your own knowledge. If they wanted to have material, India has mountainous material. But they are superiority complex. They are the people who are on the top. They don't want to admit anybody taller than themselves. That is the bare truth. It is out of sheer necessity and pressure, not because appreciation and understanding.
Well, you have to.
There are a number of persons, man like Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, he is there with you. He didn't happen 10, no, 10 centuries back. He happened just one generation here, and everybody, you see, many people who saw him are there living still. So you see, that is what spirituality can do. Now you find out what is the process. Instead of saying, oh, that is something else. Now we must study subconscious and unconscious and telepathy and machine press here and press there and press there. All this physiology, and you confound physiology and psychology and all kinds of parapsychology is another. Every 6 or 7 branches there. It doesn't all tally one. You see, one against the other, and one pulling this way, another pulling that way. Doesn't make much sense.